better academic skills than individuals who are not visually impaired. So access to the existing core curriculum is critical for these individuals. Some of the things that we can do as teachers in order to help support the participation of students with visual impairments in the general education classroom would probably fall under the heading of, communication courtesies. Some of these include things like always identify yourself when approaching a student with a visual impairment. Speak directly to the student using a normal tone of voice. Most of my experience working as a special education teacher was working with individuals with severe physical disabilities, and those individuals often said to me that it was somewhat of a mystery that when individuals saw they had a physical disability, people for some reason felt a need to speak more loudly to them. Individuals with visual impairment report the same thing. When individuals notice that they have a visual impairment, for some reason people feel it's important to speak even more loudly. So one word of caution or one suggestion, I guess, would be to really try and monitor that you're not speaking in an unusually loud tone of voice or an unusually slow tone of voice when interacting with individuals who are blind or visually impaired. When you are working in the classroom and asking other students to participate, please address those other students by name so the student with visual impairment can start to learn the names of the other students in the class and get a better idea of what's going on. And always ask before providing assistance. So if you're attempting to assist an individual in walking down the hall or sit in a particular location, it's just regarded as a courtesy that you would ask before actually providing assistance in that way. And of course, if the individual does have a guide dog, please remember that the guide dog, no matter how cute, is there to work, and that it's important not to interact or distract the dog. The dog is there for a job, and the more other people interact with it, the less well that dog will be able to actually do their job. Even if they are very cute, as I say, try not to interact with them. Some other things that we can do to help support the participation of individuals who are blind or who have low vision. On the first day of class, make sure that you've reserved a seat in an optimal location. So think about, if the student does have some vision, make sure that they're going to be seated in a way that they're not having to deal with a high contrast, so that when they, for example, look at the front of the room, they don't have to look at the teacher in front of a glass window where there may be a lot of sun coming in that could be distracting. Try and allow time for the student to tactily explore the classroom and classroom materials. So it's often of assistance for students, whether blind or have some vision, that they can actually physically explore the room and just get a sense of the size and the layout of the room. And clearly try and keep the organization of the classroom consistent. So if you do need to make changes in the physical layout of the room, again, it might be a good idea to treat it as a first day all over again. Allow the student who has low vision the opportunity to come in when other students aren't there and just get a better sense of the physical layout of the room and where different things are located. What I'd like to ask you to do now is to stop for just a moment and think through this scenario. I'd like you to pretend that you're a teacher in a high school and you've learned that you're going to be getting a student in your class who is blind. My question for you is this: what would you say to your class? So based on some of the things that we've talked about and just based on some of your own personal experience, I'd like you to write down sort of 3 themes or 3 big ideas, 3 major issues that you would want to get across to your class. After you've written down those 3 big ideas, so those 3 themes that you would attempt to communicate to your students, I'd like you to take a moment and read "There's a Blind Kid in My School," which is a reading in your packet. After you've completed that activity, please turn on this DVD and continue to the next slide. So there really is no absolutely right or wrong answer to that last activity. In a future session, I'll be talking a little bit more about how to introduce children with disabilities to their non-disabled peers, but I just thought this would be a good opportunity to reflect for a moment about some of the things that we've talked about so far. some of the themes that I would try to include if I was to be in that situation of talking to high school students about the arrival of a student with a visual impairment would be things like this. First, I try and be factual with the students. So individuals with disabilities and their parents know that there are differences, but they don't want those differences to be used to lower expectations. So I would encourage the students in the class to treat the individual with a visual impairment as a fellow student with the same academic expectations as everyone else. I would also try and stress similarities between the student with visual impairments and the student without visual impairments. Like all students, it's never easy to be new to a school or new to a class. Everyone's sort of got that feeling of, how's this all going to work out? And I would also encourage the students who do not have visual impairments to recognize that the student who does have visual impairments listens to music, watches TV, in many ways is going to be a typical teenager. We sometimes become very guarded in our speech and worry that we're going to say the wrong thing to a student with visual impairment. By and large, what we are told by individuals with visual impairments and their parents is that they really don't worry quite so much about whether somebody uses a word that's a little unusual, like watching TV. Their interest is that other people are interested in interacting with them. So don't worry that you're going to say the wrong thing or say something that you believe will be embarrassing. Finally, I would probably talk to the high school students about the importance of being proactive. It's very difficult for an individual with visual impairment to know, clearly if somebody is looking at them. It's very difficult for them to pick up on the subtle signals that other high school students might use as greetings or as ways of saying hello. So it's going to be important for the students who do not have visual impairment to be more proactive in greeting and interacting with the student who does have visual impairment. So I might even try role-playing through some of those greetings and introductions with the other high school students in the class. Some of the other ways that we can support the participation of a student who is blind or who has low vision in a general education classroom is by providing information in the requested medium or in the requested format. Again, in a later telecast, I'll be talking about assistive technology for individuals with impairments. At that time, I'll be providing more detailed information about how students with visual impairments can make use of enlarged text and how there's machines that can actually look at the text in a normal, typical textbook and expand that for the student with low vision. We'll be talking about electronic texts and books on tape and services that are available to help you get reading materials converted to an auditory medium. That includes tape texts. We'll also be talking about the use of Braille and devices that can assist students in using Braille not only to read text, but to do mathematical equations, read maps, all sorts of functions that you may not have anticipated. So again, that will be in a later broadcast on assistive technology. Some of the simple things that you can do as a teacher to assist students who have low vision is to try and avoid clutter on the chalkboard and in your handouts. So get information about preferred fonts and preferred font sizes and try and incorporate that into the work that you do. As you work at the chalkboard, try and verbalize everything that you're doing. Also, it's helpful to encourage students with low vision or who are blind to start to learn how to make use of a tape recorder. Again, I'll be talking more about these different types of assistive technologies when we get to a later section in this course. So we've talked about the opportunity to be equal, and we've talked about some of the ways that students who are blind or who have low vision can be assisted in completing the same assignment that their non-disabled peers are participating in. Clearly, although we have the same academic expectations, we also need to think about what accommodations might be appropriate. So there may be situations in which individuals need more time to complete an activity. There may be times when we would make decisions about whether individuals with a vision impairment need to complete the same number of items or could possibly complete a fewer number of practice items. And again, we need to think about how assistive technology might be used to assist students in participating. What I'd like to do now is share with you a brief videotape of a student in high school who I think demonstrates some of the outstanding outcomes that we can see when appropriate supports are provided along the way. You're going to have a brief introduction to a student named Zachary Battles. Zachary Battles is blind and makes use of a wide variety of assistive technology in order to participate in grade level coursework. I'd actually say he's participating in above grade level coursework. You're going to see him talking about his experiences as a student in advanced mathematics classes here at the local high school. So we'll look at that videotape now.
My name is Zachary Battles, and I'm attending the State College Area High School. I'm an 11th grader, and I enjoy working with computers, and I also enjoy reading for recreation. I hope to apply to universities such as the Massachusetts Institute of Technology or Carnegie Mellon University because I want to major in computer science, since it has fascinated me for quite a long time.
Clearly, when there are appropriate opportunities and appropriate supports, we can see some outstanding outcomes. Not only was Zachary successful at the high school level, he moved on and attended Penn State University in mathematics, and while at Penn State, earned a Rhodes Scholarship to carry on and study at Oxford. So again, I won't deny the challenges and I won't deny the hard work that's needed, but this is also a very exciting time in terms of some of the opportunities that are available. Up to this point, I've talked about ways that we can support students who are blind, who have a visual impairment, to participate in the general education curriculum. Clearly, there will also be a need to provide instruction in some areas that are particular to students who have low vision. So we talk a little bit about, when we look at instructional content, we also need to recognize the right for these individuals to be different. Students who are blind or who have low vision may require additional instruction in things like functional academic skills, orientation and mobility, social interaction, independent living, and visual efficiency, or how to make use of the vision that they have. I'd like to talk first about functional academic skills and some of the things that students with low vision may need assistance in learning. The first is to focus on the teacher. And to some extent this may seem obvious, but I guess I would encourage you all to think about your first summer job, and maybe, you know, somebody had to give you a poke in the ribs or whatever and say, look lively when the boss is around. And to some extent that's true for kids with visual impairment. They don't pick up clearly on the subtle signals that other students may pick up on, and they will need actual instruction on how to behave in a way that makes it clear to everybody in the room that they're paying attention to the teacher, that they're focused on what's going on. Students with visual impairments may also need to learn how to respond quickly to instructions. Again, they won't see how rapidly other students in the room do or do not attend to what the teacher has requested. So they may need explicit instruction on the importance of responding quickly to instruction. Some of these issues that I've talked about may stem from the fact that they don't know what others in the classroom are doing, and they may need to learn strategies that will help them determine what are other people in the class doing. So whether that's asking a peer or whether that's listening quietly to try and figure out, is this a time that people are talking or is this a time that people are working? But if these students are participating in general education classrooms, they need to develop the skills of how to be seen as a successful participant. Again, they may also need instruction on how to work at an appropriate pace. They're not going to be aware of what their peers are doing, and they will need to learn specific strategies for how to clearly be as active and as engaged as their peers in the classroom. Some other functional academic skills that will be important for students with low vision is learning how to keep an organized notebook. So if they're using Braille